Hello again, folks. Welcome to ISC 545 Group 7's case study of Volkswagen of America. My name is Sean Ramsey. Presenting with me will be Edwin Shelton on behalf of Keoki Stevenson. We'll start by going over some important facts driving this case. The 90s was a poor time for Volkswagen. The company was on the verge of failure. During that time, an effort was made to reduce cost by outsourcing all of its IT to Pro. Geddes USA would administer this contract outsourcing and would leave Volkswagen of America with no dedicated IT staff. During that same time period, Volkswagen of America developed e-business teams, department-based groups which would direct marketing efforts for each individual department. Come early 2000s, Volkswagen realized a stable central IT department was crucial to its future success, and sought multiple times to redevelop its IT field. A process specialist with factory management experience was eventually brought from Germany to fix the IT problems, which he considered rootly caused by the process failures within the system. Along with the new CIO, a new CEO was leading dramatic changes for Volkswagen, pushing a dramatic effort to multiply sales. Volkswagen needed to ready itself for that. The BPTO department, as well as a new formal funding process, was made to align IT department spending with the company's initiatives in this next round of growth. Volkswagen of America sought nearly $210 million worth of funding, which soon became $170 million after the funding process simplified it. This was nearly triple its $60 million budget. As the funding process continued, it soon became apparent only $14 million remained for business unit projects, and the CIO was left with a tough decision on how to split this. Eventually, this culminated in the partial funding of a Germany-based supply chain initiative. With these facts in mind, three key issues were developed. 1. How can Volkswagen Auto Group ensure critical global initiatives are funded and implemented in regional subsidiaries? 2. What steps should Volkswagen of America take to ensure they were utilizing IT resources effectively? 3. What steps can be taken to streamline the IT funding process? 4 courses of action address the insurance of global initiative funding. We can restructure Volkswagen Auto Group IT such that it complements regional IT groups. We can also make it such that Volkswagen Auto Group can mandate mission-critical projects and leave local funding locally. We can also choose to modify the regional IT funding process. Lastly, we can place Volkswagen Auto Group representative on the IT steering committee to ensure global voices are heard at the regional level. If we make it such that Volkswagen Auto Group's IT centralizes the IT role in Volkswagen, it makes it easy to retain the business knowledge and ensure the global view is heard at a regional level. But this would require yet another social, cultural, and financial restructuring, the fifth of the decade. If instead Volkswagen Auto Group mandates and helps fund mission-critical projects, funding issues can be addressed much earlier in the funding process. This would also give regional executives cover to prioritize global projects over regional ones. Besides the obvious financial drawbacks, this may anger many regional groups and would reduce the freedom regions have to experiment and develop on their own. Another less restrictive route will be to modify the regional funding process to one where regions propose projects and Volkswagen Auto Group decides which ones to fund. This would allow a central authority to decide issues with a strategic global view in mind and would help remove the significant regional infighting that occurs in the funding process, at the cost of a possible selection of non-ideal projects for regions. An even more relaxed route will be to place a globally minded Volkswagen Auto Group member on the IT steering committee as an advisor. This would ensure global views and goals are heard, but would still allow regional groups to ignore global advisor recommendations. We recommend that option. It ensures global views are heard to prevent serious global issues, while leaving toe-stepping and changes to a minimum. With that issue resolved, we will now move on to ensuring that Volkswagen is properly utilizing their IT resources. With the chronic underfunding of IT as well as a decade of neglect suffered by the IT department, IT needs to be effectively utilized. 3 recommendations exist to this problem, first of which being Volkswagen Auto Group ensuring that there is no significant budget shortfalls for IT, especially in its redevelopment. Another method to ensure better IT utilization is to require an IT buy-in for departments. Lastly, consolidation of Geddes USA and Volkswagen of America can be done to bring new focus and old talent back. If Volkswagen Auto Group can ensure there is no significant budget shortfalls for IT initiatives, IT can see a vast infrastructure improvement before the next round of growth. and ensure IT does not hamper future strategy. If an IT buy-in process was implemented, the number and quality of projects funded could increase. This would be at the cost of department dissatisfaction, a continuing atmosphere of IT dislike, and a drain on department resources. If Volkswagen was to consolidate Geddes USA with its IT department, it would instantly prevent redundancy between Geddes and Volkswagen, and would bring experienced personnel back to Volkswagen rather than at arm's length. This would be at the cost of a cultural and social change as well as a merger. Our recommendation would be to merge Geddes USA as well as ensure appropriate top-down funding. Geddes USA's consolidation would drive the need for increased funding while trimming the overall financial cost between the two former groups. Volkswagen will receive a huge experience in intellectual capital gain. But most of all, Volkswagen Auto Group must ensure and understand that a decade of IT neglect cannot be fixed overnight, and increased funding to rebuild is absolutely necessary. You must make sure the horse is well before you ask it to pull a cart. Otherwise, your strategic goals in the next round of growth will be hamstrung by your own lack of strategic foresight.
There are a large number of disparate groups within Volkswagen of America that have a hand in the approval and management of every IT project. What steps, if any, can Volkswagen of America take to address further streamlining its IT approval process? Some alternative courses of action. Consolidation of some of the major committees involved in the funding process, reducing the number of goals that projects are evaluated against, or retain the status quo, allowing the current process to mature. Consolidation of some of the major committees involved in the funding process can reduce the complexity and difficulty of the funding process itself. It also reduces the number of individuals with decision-making authority over IT funding decisions, streamlining the process. Unfortunately, this also reduces the level of oversight over funding projects. Committee members who used to have a stake in the process might not be happy losing their clout, so we would need to find a way to implement this change without upsetting them. Reducing the number of goals that the projects are evaluated against can help focus the projects to just the absolute key issues. It can also help reduce definition overlap, where similar key goals can be consolidated into one goal, simplifying the process. However, this course of action does not address the complexity of the funding process itself. Furthermore, while narrowing down the number of goals may help focus projects, there's still no guarantee that the most important projects will be funded. Allowing the new project approval system to mature may prevent overzealous removal of a sound funding process due to the growing pains inherent in the first year of a new process. Furthermore, Volkswagen of America may see retention of the process as a vote of confidence in the non-tech-oriented CIO. Indeed, major changes to the process could send a signal that he is not cut out for the job when it's evident that his stewardship quickly turned the IT department around. With all that said, issues that arose from the funding process may not be an issue of the newness of the project per se, and can remain unaddressed if we leave the process in place. As they work best in tandem, we feel that Volkswagen of America should consolidate the major committees and reduce the number of business goals to a more manageable level. The current 3-month, 3-phase process is absurd and unwieldy. If, in 3 months, Volkswagen of America can't realize how important the supply chain project is, clearly the length of the process isn't getting them better projects to fund. The current process has encouraged trying to circumvent the system despite efforts to prevent this. The process is great overall, it just needs a lot more simplification. The 56 business goals, in fact, are just way too many. Many of them may have significant definition overlap. If they can be combined, we can reduce the number of business goals that the projects have to align against. Business unit leaders have been exploiting these goals to get their pet projects funded. They still don't realize that IT is not just a means to their end, but rather Volkswagen Auto Group and Volkswagen of America in a federal government system. Clearer, simpler goals could prevent these far-fetched justifications. The fewer goals make it easier to align with the Volkswagen Auto Group goals, which may prevent more supply chain fiascos in the future.
And with that, Group 7's presentation on Volkswagen of America case study concludes. Thank you for your time. Have a good day.